Hello and welcome to Campaign Chronicles, France 24's regular countdown to the presidential election. For that, I'm joined by our French politics editor, Mark Perelman. Thanks for joining us, Mark. Also, our media editor, James Creedon. Thanks for coming in, James. You'll be looking at reaction in the press and blogs a little bit later on. First of all, Mark, all eyes on the National Front after that big score on Sunday.
Absolutely. Officially, both candidates say they want nothing to do with the National Front, which has always been a fringe party. However, they're both fishing for those precious votes for round two because they need them. So everyone is casting a net. But for François Hollande, it's a rather wide net, I should say. He's hoping that by pointing out the issue of fairness, of social justice, of bringing back more jobs and a better economy, he can reassure those who feel economically and socially alienated. And so here he was today in the northeast of France, or well, not too far from Paris, in the Picardy region, where Marine Le Pen, the National Front leader, really performed very well last Sunday. And with him were Valérie Labonne and Clovis Casali. Here's their report.
François Hollande likes to call himself the normal candidate. If elected president, he says he'll travel by train as often as possible. First, he needs to campaign hard to beat Nicolas Sarkozy. On his way to the Picardy region, the socialist leader gets off the train for a breath of fresh air. It seems some of his supporters were told beforehand. Mr. Hollande, what a welcome.
I'll have to get back on the train anyway.
Have you come to win over National Front voters or tell them that the far right is not the solution?
Today I'm here to present my solution. There are only two ways left. The right wing or the left wing I represent, which brings together all Republicans. The choice is clear.
François Hollande has set himself a difficult task, convince far-right voters to pick him in the second round of the election. Here in the town of Hirson, like in the whole area, he finished first on Sunday ahead of Marine Le Pen, while Nicolas Sarkozy only finished third. A significant rise of the far right. In 2007, it obtained 17% in the area and 26% this time. Seeking to woo these voters, François Hollande has paid a visit to this car-making factory. He explains why.
I want to talk to all voters, including those who express anger through their vote and who are worried. Those who want change, who haven't always been able to express it. They shouldn't feel let down or resigned. That's not the answer. I won't promise anything I can't deliver.
In Hirson, François Hollande promised he would win on May the 6th. It's possibly the first time he says it in public. To reach that ultimate goal, he will need to woo not just left-wing voters, but also some who chose the National Front in the first round.
So this was François Hollande's rather subtle or vague, some would say, way of trying to woo those National Front voters for the incumbent Nicolas Sarkozy, who's trailing François Hollande. He has to cast a much tighter net, and he really has to harp on issues like immigration, to beat on Europe, and that's what he did today. He was also near Paris, and our Julie Dungelhoff and Luc Brown tagged with the incumbent president, who hopes he can beat all the odds and be re-elected on May 6th.
For Nicolas Sarkozy, a new campaign has begun. He argues that he'll benefit from the head-to-head match with François Hollande, but there's no getting away from the success of Marine Le Pen. Sarkozy courted the far right before the first round. Now he wants to address their concerns.
Quel thème serait tabou?
What issues should be taboo? I've been knocking myself out for the past 3 months to say that the best way to encourage the extremes is to say there are taboos you can't talk about.
La question de l'immigration est un sujet dont il faut parler.
We have to talk about immigration, we have to talk about borders, we have to talk about the nation.
est un sujet dont il faut parler.
The degree to which he should woo far-right voters has provoked unease within his own team. Sarkozy's spokeswoman, for example, Nathalie Kosciuska-Morizet, is known as an ardent adversary of the National Front. But now the campaign strategy is clearly to welcome with open arms voters who chose the far-right option.
It's not us making comments about each voter's choice. Nicolas Sarkozy doesn't believe there's a left-wing France and a right-wing France. There's just one France. That France deserves a plan, a future. That France deserves the truth.
At today's rally, his message is clearly aimed at the right-wing support base. His focus, work, immigration, the family, the nation, and what he calls French values. Despite the fact he's been in power for the past 5 years, Sarkozy is also playing the outsider to appeal to ordinary French voters.
Before the first round, they said it wasn't even worth me being a candidate. I wouldn't make it to the second. That was settled. Thanks. But there's a small detail. It's the French who choose.
It's the French who choose then, and though Sarkozy's strategy seems clear, he still faces an uphill battle before the second round vote.
Okay, Mark, we've seen Francois Hollande and Nicolas Sarkozy. What does Marine Le Pen have to say about her newfound influence?
Well, she's very happy about it, clearly. She's been all smiles since Sunday. She will officially tell everyone what she intends to do or what she hopes her voters will do on May 1st, which is the day where the National Front traditionally celebrates in Paris the birth of Joan of Arc. However, she's already very clearly indicated that she would not support François Hollande and she would not support Nicolas Sarkozy. Let's take a listen to Marine Le Pen on France 2 television.
You know me, I don't change my mind all the time. I don't make promises about something and then make other contradictory pledges. I have nothing to sell, nothing to negotiate. You know very well that I can't differentiate between Nicolas Sarkozy and François Hollande on some essential issues, of which the most important to me is our country's sovereignty.
So nothing to negotiate, but Marine Le Pen already has her sights on the next election, which are going to take place in June. After the presidential election, we have parliamentary elections, and she's hoping to win big and make sure the Conservative Party of Nicolas Sarkozy loses its majority. But interestingly, although both the Conservatives and the National Front say they don't want any alliance, it seems that their supporters are in favor of such an alliance. There's an interesting poll that came out today saying that a third of the French, the total French, are against. A third are in favor of such an alliance for the parliamentary election. But when it comes to National Front voters and especially UMP voters, 64% and 59%, so nearly 2/3, are in favor of such an alliance. So it's interesting because it could herald kind of new right in France where there could be an alliance between the far right and the Conservative Party, especially if Nicolas Sarkozy loses, but obviously he's still convinced he can pull it off.
Okay, Mark Perelman, let's bring in James Creed now. What kind of election themes are trending on social media?
Well, Mark was just mentioning the 1st of May, originally International Workers' Day, so quite socialist and lefty. Then the far right kind of said, hey, let's make it about Marine Le Pen, not Marine Le Pen, but
Joan of Arc.
Joan of Arc. I shouldn't really mix them up. And now Nicolas Sarkozy is trying to get in on the game, and he's going to do something on the 1st of May this year. And if I think Rue 89 have an article here, and they give the quote as, on the 1st of May, we're going to organise a workers' festival, but a festival for real workers, for real work. To I suppose the distinction being between people who are on social welfare, right? Or
exactly.
People, right? So inevitably on social media, you've people commenting on this term vrai travail, a real job, real work, and finding all sorts of their charts. You know, do you have a real job? Are you a civil servant? Then no, you can't go to this thing, and you have to follow this chart to see if you actually have a real job and if you can go along to this festival organised by Nicolas Sarkozy. Other words saying, what about collecting envelopes from Mrs. Betancourt? Is that a real job? So that's maybe a bit unfair. A real job is one that allows you to buy it. So basically what they're doing is they're taking, as is often the case on social media, something that he said and kind of turning it around and throwing it back in his face, which it could be just as easily be François Hollande, but today it is Nicolas Sarkozy is the butt of this. Here they're saying, a real job would allow you to buy a Rolex before, your 50th birthday. And, Jean Sarkozy getting the rap there, that's his son who was, he tried to give him a plum job at one point. Also a reference to the the fake jobs scandal at the Paris City Hall. What's it called? The travail fictif.
Fictitious job.
Fictitious job scandal, which is the perfect opposite of a real job. So of course people are talking about that. Oh, will this particular person, Xavier Tiberi, who was a big centre of that scandal in Paris, will she be allowed to go to the Real Workers Festival? So as you can see, it just became a big trend online with people, I suppose, mocking a little bit the tone and the tenor of this.
And his rival François Hollande said Nicolas Sarkozy is talking about real work, but what he brought to France is real unemployment. So clearly everyone is harping on this, but Nicolas Sarkozy probably knew it.
This is it. I mean, it's almost impossible for politicians nowadays to come out with a slogan that can't be turned around and turned into a missile to be turned right. Exactly. So there you go. Today it's hashtag vrai travail, real job.
Okay, gents. Thank you very much for the vrai travail that you've both been doing for us. That's it for Campaign Chronicles. Plenty more on our website. You can follow the whole campaign there. Do stay with us here on France 24. More news coming up very shortly.